Hey everyone, welcome back to Life According to Richard and Sam. I'm Richard.
I'm Sam.
And today we're going to talk about music. Today we're going to touch on our favorite genres, favorite musicians, and talk about music challenges. I know I've been seeing a lot of them on like Instagram. I'm sure you have too, Sam.
I've participated in a lot of them just because I love talking about music, even though I'm not a music major like some people are music minor like some people.
Oh yeah. I did one, and then about halfway through I almost quit because it was too much to keep up with. But oh well.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But how you been doing, buddy?
So I'm doing good. Since we're in social distancing, quarantine, whatever you want to call it, I've been listening to a lot of music, a lot of new music. We'll kind of touch on a lot of that stuff later. But you want to start with, all right, we'll go top 3 favorite genres. Just so we have it. So you don't have to pick a definitive one.
Alrighty. I'll start. I guess my favorite genre is probably singer-songwriter, then get into the classic rock, and then I'll go metal.
Okay. I kind of expected the metal one, just because of a concert that I know you were going to with someone. I don't know if that's really considered metal, but...
No, that's more like comedy rock with little hints of metal.
Comedy rock? Okay. Okay. But, yeah. See, my biggest thing is, like, I don't like when people tell others what the definitive best music is. Because, like, I like all types of music. I know we differ on our music tastes. Like, classic rock is, I'd say if I had to pick a top 3 in order, it'd be classic rock, hip hop, and either, like, I don't know how to really describe it, like indie pop.
Okay.
But, so, like, you know, I know this is a very niche reference, but we have a friend, like his style of music, like, you know, Tame Impala, stuff like that, where it's just like more indie music and stuff like that. More indie music, more like Cage the Elephant, Rep to the Strokes,
right?
Just things like that. Because I like having a broad variety of music. Because like for me, music is all depends on the like situation. So like as an education major, I've had to grade quizzes when I was out in the field doing field work. And like every time I grade quizzes, I listen to classical music. If I'm working out, it's hip hop. It's something like hard. If I'm studying, it's classic rock or hip hop. And if I'm just vibing, you know, just chilling, hanging out, it could be anything depending on my mood. So
right. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a mood-based listener of music. I have not been doing music while I do homework. I used to, like when I was in high school. But I think continuing like or coming into college doing a music major, I've become too knowledgeable about music. So now I lose focus if I listen to music. So that's interesting. But yeah, really.
You know what they say, ignorance is bliss.
You're right.
But like, I don't understand why people... Big one is why people dislike country music. It's like, I love country music. Like if I'm sitting outside at a campfire, I want to listen to country music.
Right. Well,
if I'm just like, if literally like I make a lot of playlists on Spotify.
Yeah.
And like, they're all for different types of things. Like when I have a hang up playlist for my friends, which is hip hop and things like that. But like I have a road trip playlist, which is basically all country and classic rock that is about as close as rock can get to country without being country, if that makes any sense. So like the Allman Brothers Band,
right?
Kind of Lynyrd Skynyrd, just kind of things like that, where it's just like that kind of southern twang, classic rock.
Yeah, it's called like, I think it's Southern Rock. Southern Rock is what it's called.
Yeah, Southern Rock. And then I have a playlist which is, you know, I have a vibe playlist, which is kind of chill. And then I have, when I'm not feeling the best, just kind of my sad boy hours, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Just my sad boy songs, which is a whole different thing. Like, all those musicians, which some of their songs overlap into other playlists.
Right. I have some Sad Boy Hours playlists. I mean, I don't really do it anymore. I guess I don't really have Sad Boy Hours as much. But I definitely did in high school. Funny thing, Rick and Morty actually showed me a Sad Boy Hours artist. Also fits in a singer-songwriter, Elliott Smith.
Okay. I don't know who that is, but I'll look it up.
Oh yeah, he's got some great stuff. They like I don't even remember what the episode was or why he was in it, but it like made one of the characters cry on the spot. It's kind of funny, and it's also kind of sad because I think he committed suicide in the early 2000s or something like that.
Oh,
but really good artist, really good music.
I think that's one of the other interesting things about music too, is like if you look at it, like there's a big discrepancy between like artists who have passed too soon, like musicians. The discrepancy between musicians passing too soon and like actors, and like I know there's been a lot of young actors that have died, but like for me it always just felt like there's been a lot more musicians. Like a lot of the under the 27 club are musicians, and I mean just like personally the last like 3 years there's been a lot of musicians that I've like listened to like heavily that have gotten me through a lot that have passed. So I think that's one of the other beautiful things of music and just like art in general is like just because the people aren't there anymore doesn't mean you can't celebrate it. Like for example, Juice WRLD in high school, freshman year, sophomore year, not high school, senior year high school, really freshman year of college was when he really got big, and like Lucid Dreams was like a hit. And so I started listening to him because all my friends started listening to him. Like a bunch of my friends back home, some of my friends up here, like they started listening to him, and like his music just came, and that whole style just came part of my life and like part of my music taste. And now the reason that I'm into that music anyways is gone. So I think that's just another interesting thing is like, even though they might not still be here, that we still listen to the music. And I know this is really sad and really depressing, but also I think it's kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, being in the arts, I'm forced with quotation marks, look at, different aspects of the fine arts and, to see all the different, paintings and works by people who spent their life doing what they love. It's really fascinating, and I mean, humbling at sometimes to just see this grand masterwork, in life, you know.
And I think that's another beautiful thing is like art of all forms, like breaks down borders.
Right.
Like music, like I have similar music tastes to people that have nothing in common with me, like whatsoever. Like I listen to country music. I'm not working out on a farm. I'm not in the middle of bumblefuck nowhere, Wyoming.
Right.
But I still listen to the same artists as them. I still appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of interesting is like music, just movies, like big movie today, like that won a lot of awards. Parasite, like haven't watched it. It looks like an amazing movie, but it brought people together. It separated some people, but that's a whole different discussion. But like as a whole, like what I love about the arts and music in general is that it just brings everybody together. Like no matter who you are, like, oh, you like that person, I like that person, immediate contact. Like some of my closest friends, I'm close with them because of similar music tastes.
Yeah.
And like going to Summerfest, like living in Milwaukee, I go to Summerfest every year, or at least I usually do. this year's a little different, but
Right.
like going to Summerfest, like I didn't go to Summerfest till after I graduated high school. Like that was the first time I went to Summerfest. And I think part of that was because I had friends to go with, but I was so like in my shell, like, and also like I didn't really hang out with those friends until junior year. Like I bounced around friend groups sophomore year, freshman and sophomore year. Like I hung out with those people, I knew them, but like I didn't really start hanging out with them until junior year.
Yeah.
So like just going to concerts is one of the coolest things ever, because it's like hundreds of thousands of people, or not hundreds of thousands of people, hundreds to tens of thousands of people, all in one area because they all like one musician. I just think that's so cool.
Right. Yeah. I've not had the opportunity yet to go see like a rock concert. I'm hoping to still. I don't know if they'll still have the concert in September to see Tenacious D.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're like, and they're,
for those of you that are keeping along, this is the concert I was referencing earlier.
Yeah. Tenacious D. They're such a like, their fan base is so like culty. Like, I don't know, almost like obsessive fans that, you know, just love everything they do because it's them. They're always trying to please their fans. That's the point of why they make their music. And I mean, hopefully that's the point that, you know, all artists make music. But, you know, I mean, people do it for money and stuff. But like, it's Jack Black, who's an actor and, you know, millions of dollars already. He doesn't need this second thing. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, in the 90s, they kind of needed it to pay some bills. But, but, you know, they're pretty wealthy, I mean.
Yeah, and like that's the beauty of it. They're both still doing it because they love to do it.
Oh yeah, they're so old.
And that's what I like about all of my musicians that I really am into. Like the next section, obviously we'll talk about that. Like we'll talk about our top 5 musicians currently. And I have some hot takes, but you know, whatever. But they're not really hot takes, but they're like, my reasoning behind it is just funny. But like that's what I love about a vast majority of musicians is that like, especially when you've been following them since they were little. I know obviously like with Tenacious D, neither of us were alive when they started.
Right.
So we can't have been following them. Like I listen to some of their music, like they're pretty chill. Obviously I'm not at the level you and Jack are at. Like I would never in my million years think of going, like that'd be like one of my bucket list things was me going to a Tenacious D concert. But like I respect it. But like what I love about it is like starting with a musician when they're small, like when they're just starting to get big, or not even that, like watching musicians do, like hell, musicians that didn't even start off as musicians when you were watching them. Like one of the big YouTubers I watched, KSI, you might have heard of him, whatever. Like I'm a big British YouTube fan. Like I don't know why, I just love British YouTube. But like he started off like doing dumb on FIFA, playing FIFA on YouTube when like YouTube was just starting.
Right.
And now he's a multimillionaire making music with chart topping artists and has a top 10 song. Like he's made a song that had Rick Ross and Lil Baby on it. Like that's insane. And that's what I love about music is like, no matter where you are when you start listening to someone in their musical career, it's like you still see growth. You still see changes that affect how you view that person. Like you might see changes that you don't like. You're like, there might be one album that they don't like, which is one of my biggest pet peeves is like when people just destroy an artist for making an album that they don't agree with. It's like with a lot of things, like I'm sure we'll have an episode where we talk about sports at one point, which will be my long-winded episode, even though I'm long-winded on most of these episodes. But it's just like, yeah, not everybody's going to have a top 10 album every time. Like, not every song is going to be a hit. And that's the beauty in it. It's like, yeah, these artists got big because they had hits, but not every song is going to be like that. And I just think that's awesome. Is like, because like with music, like it's just raw. I know this is a very bad analogy, but like for me, music is raw humanity. It's like whoever you listen to obviously is talking to some part of you that you identify with.
Right.
Like it could be your political views. Like there's a lot of political music going on right now. Like there's a lot of political music going on.
I guess I don't really listen to a lot of current.
I don't either, because like a lot of it's joke music, which is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Like just bashing the other side. But like I don't want to get into that. Or like there's music about love or like heartbreak or having a good time. And it's like music encapsulates just human life. And like it encapsulates the good times, it encapsulates the bad times. And like artists who have had albums that are bad, that's fine. Not everybody's gonna have a hit. Like I said that. So that's one of my biggest things I love about music is that it's just people putting their heart, their feelings, their emotions out for other people that have those same emotions.
Right. I mean,
I know that's a lot, but
no, it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, that's been happening since, as far as we can tell, since written music. You know what I mean? Going all the way back, the Greeks started. I can't even remember the oldest written music we have is in Greek, and it's impossible to read. It's only interpretations that we have, but it tells a story. I think it's about love or something like that. Like it goes all the way back that far, that people have been expressing their emotions through music. And I mean, touching back on something we were talking about earlier, like music making you feel a certain way. There are like orchestrated pieces, especially for me, that when I hear them, it gives me an emotion. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. Like I just, I get the chills when I'm listening to certain pieces. And it's amazing. And the artist's works are still, heard today. Like before this happened, I was in a community choir, then we were going to perform Mozart, a bunch of pieces by Mozart, but one of them is one of my favorite works, Mozart's Requiem, which, I mean, it's unsure how much he actually wrote of that, but we assume about a third of it was written by him, and then the rest was by one of his apprentices. And that's one of my favorite works. And I mean, if you have the time to sit down for like an hour and listen to a couple pieces, it's really moving. And I mean, it's kind of sad because it's a requiem, so peace for the dead. But
yeah, and I think that's one of the coolest things too, is like, obviously music is the most referenced form of art because in other art, because like if you look at classical paintings, they have music in them. A lot of them are about like music and have music references. If you look at movies, they have music. If you look at TV shows, there's music. Hell, anime, like my favorite anime, 80% of the characters' names are music references.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventures.
Oh yeah, I love it. That's one of the biggest reasons that I was so in and still am so into JoJo's, is that not only is it all music references, but they're all classic rock references.
Oh, yeah.
Or a lot of them are.
Yeah, and it was made in like I think the manga.
Yeah, the original shonen manga was the 80s. Like it started. I don't know about the 80s. Like I'll have to look it up because don't quote me on this.
I thought it started in like the 90s.
Hirohito Araki.
And then they started making the anime in like the 2000s.
Well, it depends because it had to be the 80s because there was an OVA, which was like late 80s, early 90s, which is just 87.
Oh, really?
Was the first. Yeah, it was when Phantom Blood first came out.
Oh, wow.
But like, I just love it because like even some of the characters that you don't see as music references are still music references.
Yeah.
Like JoJo's has also put me onto so much music. Like I know this is going to be off on a tangent, but we'll come back full circle. Like the fourth part, Diamond is Unbreakable, is probably my favorite part. It's confusing, like most JoJo's plots are, but the main character, Josuke Higashikata, his stand, which is a whole nother thing, is Crazy Diamond. And the reference for that is Shine On You Crazy Diamond, which is a set 9 here. I'll look it up, which is just a bunch of music written and conglomerated by Pink Floyd. And it's just like that all of that music is just such a vibe check. It's so good. So we just spent so much time talking about our favorite genres and music in general, which I kind of expected to happen, but
I'm not even done yet. There's one more thing I wanted to touch on.
Go ahead. Shoot.
All right. Let's kind of go back. Let's talk about why, like how you got into those genres. You ready for that? Or do you want me to start?
I can start. Let's see. Classic rock I got into because my parents. I think that's how everybody got into classic rock that's our age.
Oh, yeah.
But I just like it just because, like, how the music sounds, the lyrics of the songs, and, like, just, like, how all of the bands acted. Like, you know, the idea of rock stars. Like, just that whole concept of being a rock star. And, like, my mom's favorite band is Queen. Like, without a doubt, like, you tell her, pick any band, make it like we were going to do top 5 favorite musicians. Queen will be number 1, and there will be a sizable gap in between. So I just got into that. Hip hop I got into because of my friends. My friends and like just kind of pop, like the late 2000s, not late 2000s, but like early 2010s was when I started really getting into hip hop because it was just being played a lot more on the radio stations I would listen to on my way to school. I'm like, oh, this music is cool. I want to listen to more of it. And so I started listening to that with my middle school friends when we would hang out, and then also my high school friends. So like that's how I got into, like I said, Juice WRLD. That's how I got into Mac Miller. That's how I got into Tyler the Creator, even Joji, who like you may know as Filthy Frank from YouTube, who's an amazing musician. Joji is so underrated. Like his music is, I just love his music. And so like, and then it just kept building and building and building. And then it got to a point where I would listen to hip hop more than I would listen to classic rock. And now I've slowly kind of balanced it out. And then like that indie pop vibe, I don't know what to call it. I don't even know if like one of my favorite artists would be classified in that.
I mean, you could just say indie.
If you're listening to this, I'm sorry I might list some artists that aren't really indie artists. And I'm sorry for that. Because like I said, that's the most recent one. Like I started getting to that with 2 people. Mason, who we both know, has been a really big influence for me. with that genre of music. And then my roommate sophomore year, his name is Jack. He was, I don't know if you've met him, whatever, but he is one of the biggest, he's a really big Strokes fan. And so he's the reason I listened to that. And then I got into all of that, like classic, early 2000s, late 2000s, like alternate rock, where it's just like, I started listening to a lot more Blink-182. Like, I have playlists that I've played with everybody that are just like, literally, I just labeled it nostalgia.
Oh.
Just because, like, I would listen to these songs, but, like, it would be like, I wouldn't listen to them all the time. So, like, Cage the Elephant, The Killers, who, like, that's a whole nother thing. Like, I'm going off on a tangent. I'm sorry. Mr. Brightside is not The Killers' best song. Like, yes, it is their most popular song. It is not their best song. And I think that's the thing with a lot of artists is like their most popular song isn't always their best song. Like for me, this might have changed because I don't know like how much I've listened to him in a while, but for me, No Problem by Chance the Rapper, which is like the song that made him big, is a good song. I don't think it's his best song. Yeah. So I think that's like a big thing is like differentiating between their best song and their most popular song is like a big. I know this is gatekeeping. I know whatever, but like that's a big tell for me if that person actually listens to that band. Because like I bet you there's bands that I listen to that like, oh yeah, I really love that song. It's their best song ever, and like. I would say that, and like, it's not their best song to some people. I think that's a big thing too. Is like, it's all up to interpretation. Like for me, The Killers, their best song is "When We Were Young." When we were young, I love that song. I think it's their best song. But I also understand the cultural impact that Mr. Brightside has had. So, those are the big musicians that I listen. The big music genres that I listen to. I know that's a tangent. I know we've gone back and forth about a lot of things about people's choice, not necessarily when it comes to music, but more in a cooking standpoint. But
yeah,
which I like, like that's the whole thing is like, I respect your decision and your ability to like that. It's not my personal preference. It's not my thing, but I respect your ability to do that. I might voice my opinion against it, but
yeah.
How did you get into your genres? Sorry, I've been hogging. I feel like I've been hogging the mic, and it's two person podcast. You know, I just feel like I haven't been letting you talk a lot, so I'm gonna let you go.
All right, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say so. Singer songwriters kind of been more recently, kind of just listening to stuff. I mean that's what everything is. But I mean, I don't know how to describe it. I just kind of find an artist through some way of like looking up something, like German stuff. I don't know. That's one of my top 5 bands. They're just a German band. I don't even know how I found them. For me. Yeah, I played that.
I love that video.
On my Kontereit. Oh, you're thinking of Rammstein.
I might be. You've played the one that you played for Justin and I in the car on the way to B-Dubs.
Oh yeah, that was On in My Kontereit.
Yeah, I'll send that video to you. I love that video.
And then classic rock and metal, we're both growing up with it. I mean, I've also got like classic countries in there because that's something my grandpa listened to, and I'd, get in the car with him, drive somewhere, and that's what we listened to. He'd have, Johnny Cash album in there. He'd have Willie Nelson greatest hits, stuff like that. So that's kind of where my, I don't know, country preference comes in. But, my dad and my older sibling, growing up, they listened to classic rock. So it was like something I loved to listen to. Just growing up with it. and I'd get into, Queen, was in there. And then, my dad was also a metal guy, so I got into like Iron Maiden, throw them in there. That's how I got to my stuff. And then just kind of like learning about music too. I can get into a whole complicated tangent about talking about classical music. I put that in quotes because it's technically not what it's called.
Yeah.
And that's a technical thing, because classical music is supposed to be music from the classical period, which was 1650 or 1700 or 1750 to 1800, something like that. I'm butchering it. No, it's 1700. Whatever. I don't even remember. I'm not a music major anymore. Doesn't matter. But yeah, I just know when the Baroque period ended. That was 1750. They overlap. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Nobody cares.
No. Who cares?
But yeah, I don't know. I grew up with Jimmy Buffett too.
Oh,
funny.
I love Jimmy Buffett.
He's good. He's good.
Yeah.
Makes you want to have like a Bahama Mama or something like that when you listen to him.
Jimmy Buffett, I know this is cliche, but like, because that's what he's known for, is literally just the embodiment of a chair on a beach somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Like, I know this is really cliche, but Jimmy Buffett is actually just the definition of 5 o'clock somewhere. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Because like, I know that's ironic because that's one of his most popular songs, but it's just true. It's like, that's who he is.
And to get back with what you were saying about the best songs by artists and like the popular ones, I remember I was watching an interview. It was on like one of the late shows. They had Billy Joel on, and they asked him what he thinks are his best songs, and he listed 5, almost unknown songs in there, and they're not, he doesn't think the popular ones like what are they? I don't even
Piano
know.
Man. Piano Man's the big one.
Piano Man. There's one more that's like in his more poppy days in the 80s that I can't think of the name right now, because I don't like it. I like his softer, his like early stuff from
Uptown
the
Girl?
70s. No.
Is that the one you're thinking of?
No, there was. That's probably one of them.
The hit classic, We Didn't Start the Fire.
That one's so basic. It's like 3 chords and just rhyming a bunch of words.
Did you hear that people are trying to make a new one with everything that's going on? Or like
that's not surprising.
Since. I'm trying to look at this thing. Only the Good Die Young. That's another one that's a little more poppy, which is a good song. But like
that one is a good one. That one I appreciate on the radio. But yeah, his older stuff and then his newer stuff into like the 90s, really good stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because like we're kind of dipping into our favorite artists. So like one of my favorite artists that'll be on my list, I like listened to as a kid, and it's like classic rock, great artist, but like I didn't really start getting into them till I started like watching movies, watching a lot of TV shows, like JoJo's. Like there's in one of the mangas that I haven't read yet, but like I've looked up on characters just because I wanted to see all the music references. It's like I've looked at all like most of the characters just to see all the movie references because it's cool. It's like one of their songs is like one of the main characters in one of the later parts. So his like stand, which is a whole nother thing we can talk about another time. But I just think it's really cool. So since I started with, did you start with the genres or did I?
I started.
Okay, so I'll go for the musicians. You think we should do these in any order, or just like list off five?
I think you should try and label one as your top, like your very favorite artist, but the rest doesn't matter.
Okay, favorite artist of all time is Fleetwood Mac. That's who I was just talking about. Like, I love Fleetwood Mac. Like, if you want a band that is just embodies the like 70s, like late 60s and 70s, it's Fleetwood Mac. Because like the more and more I look up about Fleetwood Mac, the more and more I'm surprised. And like I'll get to the rest so we can get to your stuff. Like, there's just some wax stuff that's going on. Like, they're two of their most popular songs are literally just diss tracks.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, like Dreams and You Can Go Your Own Way are Stevie Nicks and what's his name? Stevie Nicks is one of their one of their lead singers who's like just this is a personal thing, but when I think of like powerful women, Stevie Nicks is up there because like she's the lead singer in one of the most popular bands of all time and like just did her own. She did what she wanted.
Yeah.
So Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham were two members of Fleetwood Mac who were dating when the band started and like when the band was going. They broke up after dating for 8 years. Stevie Nicks wrote Dreams, which is, that like really vibey song. I can't sing it, but like if you look up Dreams, you'll recognize it right away. And then You Can Go Your Own Way is like that hard hitting song. So like Stevie Nicks wrote Dreams about Lindsey Buckingham, and Lindsey Buckingham wrote You Can Go Your Own Way about Stevie Nicks, and they both sang it about each other in the band. So like that is what I love about Fleetwood Mac, is that they are just, for lack of a better term, they're just so chaotic sometimes. And like that was one of my tweets, is like, we've had a Queen biopic, we've had an Elton John biopic, both of which are amazing movies. Like both of those movies are amazing. Like Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man are fantastic movies. I want a Fleetwood Mac movie. And like I've said this so many times, but if we had a Fleetwood Mac movie, like it would just be pure chaos, because like that's just one story about the band. That's just one story. Like just the fact that Stevie Nicks, who was their lead singer and like one of the crucial members of the band, and Lindsey Buckingham, who was not only part of the band but one of their crucial writers, were dating, broke up when the band was kind of like dying down a bit, and then wrote these two like musical icons of songs. Like, just when I think of classic rock, those are two of the songs that I think of like defining Fleetwood Mac. Like in my opinion, it's those two songs and Rhiannon. Which, like, if you think of Fleetwood Mac, that's what I think of. So that's what I love about Fleetwood Mac. If I had to pick a second artist right now, it's probably Quinn 92. You probably know this. Like, I talk about his music all the time, and it's just like his music is just a conglomeration of a bunch of different styles. I saw him at Summerfest last year. Legitimately one of the best concerts I've ever been to. But I just like all of his music. He's like introduced me to some close friends just through his music. Like, not him personally, but like his music has.
Right.
The next three are all kind of similar just because they all have different impacts to me.
Right.
But like, they're all
Let's switch this.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, let's switch this up, and I'll do my talk a little bit, and then we can.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. All right, my number one top artist, Tenacious D. I mean, I've already kind of talked about them a little bit in this episode, but they're just, I don't know. I guess right below, like my fourth favorite genre is like comedy music. I think it's because I can just shut my brain off and enjoy something silly and that's what Tenacious D is. Tenacious D is like they're trying so hard to be, this like metal or like rock metal mix, and it's just a big joke, and it's so funny, but it's also so good because they're really great musicians. I don't know if you knew about this, but they started with a show in the 90s, and it was on HBO. It aired 3 episodes. That's all they got.
Huh.
And it was like 2 episodes, or 1 episode was like a half, or like 2 half episodes. So the first 15 minutes would be, Angel in Disguise, and then the second 15 minutes is like Bigfoot. They'd be completely different stories.
Yeah.
And each episode they would have like at least 2 songs they'd work in, and it's hilarious. You can find it on YouTube or on HBO. Surprisingly, it's still on HBO. Because it only had the 3 episodes. But they're so funny. They just came out with a new album in 2018 or 2019 called Post Apocalypto, which is a little ironic where we're at now.
Yeah, I was about to say, isn't that fitting?
But I don't know what to say, but like Jack Black has an amazing voice. Have you listened to Meatloaf ever?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of got like the cadence, like the tone of Meatloaf, but at the same time it's got mixes of Dio in it.
Yeah, no, I've listened to some Tenacious D, so like I can agree with that. Like, but continue. Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's what I got. Like, and then the lead guitarist, like his wingman Kyle Gass, is just he's so unknown. He's known for like his cameo roles in Jack Black movies. Like, I don't even know what he's done to kind of get popular, but he's the quiet talent that's in the corner of the room writing these amazing riffs and these awesome chord progressions in music.
Yeah.
I mean, the best way to do it is just look up Tribute Tenacious D. That's the band right there for all the listeners.
Okay.
You want to hit it with your second choice, second, third, fourth?
Real quick, my next 3 are all hip hop artists. It's Tyler the Creator, who, in my opinion, has my favorite hip hop album of all time, Scumfuck Flower Boy. It's what Kristen got me for Teakmas. One of my favorite albums. It's over there. Because, like, as you know, I have vinyls. I have a record player in my room. And then it's Juice WRLD. Like, as I said earlier, I kind of touched on him earlier. Like, he's been a big influence on my life just because, like, how his music is and, like, what he sings about and, like, all the friends that I've made through that. And then the other one is Lil Uzi Vert, just because, like, I love his songs. Like, for me, if you want a hype song, like classic Lil Uzi Vert, like Love Is Rage 2, or Love, like, just, or not Love Is Rage 2, that's not classic, like Love Is Rage is just like, you want hype songs, like he's got so many good songs. So those are, I'd say, my top 5. Where would you round out your top 5?
I'm gonna go with that singer-songwriter category and hit with Anand May Kantarite. And Billy Joel's stuff is kind of like that style, singer-songwriter style. And then to get into metal, Judas Priest.
Ooh, that's a good pick. I love Judas Priest. I don't listen to a lot of it, but all the songs that I've listened to, I like.
Oh, Judas Priest and Iron Maiden are pretty tied for me, but Rob Halford's vocals are just out of this world. But they both have such detailed storytelling in their music, and they kind of touch, you know, some of like the harder stuff, some of the more poppy metal stuff. It's, I don't know, they get quite elaborate with their stuff. Iron Maiden has this one like 15-minute song.
Jeez.
It's like an old like an Egyptian folklore tale or something like that, I think. Or maybe it's not.
Huh.
I'm gonna cut that out.
That's fine. Leave it in. I'm sure some of the stuff that I talked about in our cooking episode was wrong. Like, I know most of the stuff, some of the stuff I talked about in that cooking episode were wrong. So that's fine.
I'm just getting I'm getting confused because the album cover that song is on has the Sphinx, or it's a Power Slave is the album, and it's got a pyramid on it, but it's called Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. It's it's 13 minutes and 39 seconds, and it's all the words are different, but I think he's able to like sing it in a concert setting because it's a story. Like, they just took a story and added metal to it. Crazy.
Yeah. That's what I love about music too, is like, especially with a lot of modern musicians, that's what I like about like hip hop, is that a lot of them take samples from soul music. Like Otis Redding's a big one. Like Cigarettes and Coffee was, Cigarettes and Coffee was used in Huncho Jack Huncho, which is Quavo and Travis Scott. They're kind of like group that they made, which isn't really a group, but it's just kind of for like record purposes. But they released an album together, and like, I just like that music is like, it's repetitive, which is everything's like, I'm a big proponent of history as a circle, like things repeat, history repeats itself. But that's what I like about music, is that like, there's waves to everything. It's like the music taste that we like has ties to like older music, and it's like, we listen to the music of our parents. So that's what I really like about music, is that it just kind of ties, like, as I said earlier, music brings everyone together, and like, it brings the generations together.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And yeah, there's a big, it's really interesting when you look at the history of music in general, how music has evolved and changed in minor ways, but it's so completely different than it was 300 years ago. Because I mean, everything stems, you know, it all started with the Greeks, you know, which is more than 300 years ago.
Yeah.
But you know, in the Baroque period, they wanted to return to the music that the Greeks had, and then there was a lot of sacred music, and then it turned into classical, and then the Romantic, and then it got contemporary, and that's when we start splitting it up into jazz, and jazz turns to blues, and then, you know, it just continues through this big tree of music.
Yeah.
And there's all these branches that we have.
That's what I like about it too, is like, jazz turns to blues. There's like that branch off, that's rockabilly. It's like, there's just so many different subcultures of music that like even we don't know about. Like, one of my favorite YouTubers was like looking up the most random music genre he could think of that he didn't think it was a thing, and like, it was folk metal, which is a thing.
Oh yeah.
Which is me, from my background, I would have never thought of that. Like, I was curious. I looked into it. It seemed pretty cool. So I think that's just really cool. Is like all the different subgenres of music.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
almost out of time.
And to correct myself, just to correct myself, it was blues, then it was jazz. I don't know if there'll be a music snob listening that'll get me.
Also, like, to any music snobs that are listening, who cares? We got it wrong. We're human. Deal with it. Yeah, that's been our music episode. Thank you again for listening to us.
Yes, thank you. Please follow Dolphin Studios on Instagram, and tell your friends about this podcast.
Yeah, spread the word. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's @Nehmey, Nehmey. That's it. Hit me up.
This has been The Life According to Richard and Sam. I'm Richard.
And I'm Sam. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Should we have like a catchphrase thing? Instead of like, hey everyone, M.I. Gardner channel here.
Hiya, how's it going? This is The Life According to Richard and Sam.
Hello.
Just go overly Midwestern. Hiya, how's it going? This is The Life According to Richard and Sam. I'm Sam.